Hi guys, it's Josh again here from Infinite Vibrations, and today I'm bringing you some more music industry insights, keeping you guys updated on what's going on in the music business and the music industry. And today I want to talk about a relatively newly emerging and heavily debated topic in the music industry, and that topic is independence. The independence of musicians in that they are not signed to a record label. And today I want to highlight this new career path for you guys, because not a lot of many people are aware of how to go about this career path, or even if it exists. And it's important to talk about this subject because it could have a major effect on the way in which you operate your music career, and because there's now a new alternative to getting signed in the music industry. There's now not just one way of getting a career in music, but two ways, and they're both very different, and that's what we're going to go over today. Now, some of the topics that I'm going to be discussing in this video come off of the back end of some of the topics that I discussed in our last video, and that is the topic of COVID-19 and its effect on the future of the music industry. But in that video I mentioned how COVID-19 has accelerated some underlying trends within the industry, one of them being entrepreneurship, but the other one being independence, and that's what we're going to talk about now. But if you want to get updated on the conversation and the discussion and what we've been talking about, you can check out the video here, somewhere above here. Don't quite know where it goes, but I'll put it there for you guys. But progressing with this conversation on independence, I want to show you guys some examples of how this new market or this new sector in the music industry is growing, because it has been growing for a little time now, but in recent years it's really picked up, and we're seeing a lot more people adopt this new career path of independence. So, in a recent report from a company called Media, who is a specialist technology and media analysis company, they found that the music industry between 2017 and 2019 grew on average by 30% each year over a consecutive 3-year period. But as well as this, the Rain Group in America, which is a merchant bank, also said that our work suggests that the independent artist recorded music sector will achieve $2 billion in revenue in the calendar year of 2020, representing approximately 9% of the entire global recorded music industry. Now, this data was published before COVID-19 struck, so we'll have to see how that plays into the grand scheme of things. But if we just extract COVID from the situation right now, we see that this independent sector is growing, and it's growing at an exponential rate at that. However, these are American statistics because the Rain Group and Media are American companies. But I want to see where this independence has been growing in the UK to make it relevant to your guys' careers, and to see how this has been influencing your careers. And funnily enough, it's actually the place where you might expect it least. The place in which independence has grown the most in the UK is the grime scene, obviously specifically being from London. And this particular music genre seems to represent independence at the forefront of its industry. And this is because a very big phenomenon. And it's this: because grime is, rightly or wrongly, associated with crime, the mainstream media hadn't wanted to cover this music genre. So the community within this music genre had to depend on themselves to grow and push their music careers. So people like independent filmmakers, independent media outlets, and loads more of independent bodies banded together to promote and push this music genre, and now it's one of the biggest genres in the UK and one of the fastest ever growing genres. And I think that is correlative of the global music industry growing in the direction of independence, which is a massive, massive, awesome thing. And the independent newspaper actually picked this up when they said, "The British urban scene at first struggled to gain recognition in mainstream culture, and has primarily depended on independent media to reach its audiences." So what I'm saying here is completely evident, and other people have picked this up too. One key to the success of grime is that it's relied on the same sense of community that comes with being independent. It is inherently a community-orientated thing, because if you're independent, that doesn't mean that you're fully independent. No, it just means you're not signed to a label, and in rare cases you might not even have a manager. But you can still attract the attention of a team to come and help you with that. And I'll talk more after I've talked about grime, but they have relied on this same sense of community, and I genuinely think that other music genres could take a very big page out of their book as to how to push their music genres themselves, not having to rely on mainstream media, which is already debatably hard to get into. And now, this rise in independence has led to many questioning the purpose or the role of record labels within the industry. Because if an artist isn't signed to a record label and they can still be successful, a lot of people are questioning why you should still sign with a label. And whilst I personally still think that record labels do hold some purpose in the industry, I do think a lot of these questions are beginning to be raised around these topics through a lot of varying arrays of angles. One of them perhaps being streaming, one of them being the whole thing about record labels doing dodgy deals with artists, and it's all kind of led to this discussion around independence. And if it's one thing that's changed from this conversation, it's that the negotiating power of record labels seems to have dropped, because artists can now negotiate a deal with the label in favour of the artist, because the artist is actually bringing something to the table whilst being independent, because they have grown their career themselves, and that is something that record labels actually do look for nowadays. They're not signing people to build them up. They're looking for artists who have already garnered a career in music, already got a fan base, already relatively understand most of the music business, and have shown that they want a full-time career in music. So record labels have lost a lot of their negotiating power in terms of contracts and deals with artists because of this rise in independence. And again, it's the grime scene which seems to have talked about this the most. In the US, the hip-hop scene right now seems to be talking a lot about record labels. If you're a fan of Kanye West, you'll have seen his Twitter the past couple of weeks. He's been talking heavily about this topic, and he's been talking about it quite controversially, in that he really disagrees with labels, and he actually released some of his contracts that he had with labels, which I don't think was entirely legal, but hey, it's Kanye, what you gonna do? But yeah, a independent media outlet in the grime scene called GRM Daily, I'm sure you'll have heard of it if you're within that sort of urban scene, they have actually talked about this, and Sakib Butt, the social media manager and A&R representative, said this, quote, "The rise in internet, social media and streaming means artists can now break the scene themselves." He also noted this, quote, "The shift in power from the corporate world to independent artists has led to many acts openly stating they are not interested in getting commercial support. AJ Tracey said he wouldn't join a major label unless they could do something which he couldn't. While rappers such as Bashi have openly spoken about not signing a record deal as a positive thing." Lastly, he mentioned how this rise in independence has had a direct effect on the labels themselves, in that the deals they can negotiate are no longer the best deals in benefit of the label, which I've just previously spoken about, but he actually mentioned this as well. He actually said, in talking about this, quote, "Before, major labels would primarily offer 360 deals and take literally a percentage of everything an artist made. But now they know that they need to be fairer, because artists can do this without them." However, what does this mean for you and your career? What does this whole discussion around independence mean for the future of people's music careers? Well, it means that for the first time in decades, artists now have a choice about how they want to operate their careers, either by being signed or by being independent. And I'm not going to speak about the pros and cons of those two very different career paths right now. I'll do a separate video on that, which I'll link above here when it goes live. This video is simply just to highlight that this conversation is happening, and to make artists aware that there are now new career paths for yourself to get into a career in music. But I do just want to state that I don't think either career path is inherently better than the other. Both have got very heavy pros and cons, which, like I said, I'll be going over in a different video. But what I do think is that even if you do want to be signed, you do need to pursue some level of independence, and here's why. This is because record labels no longer want to spend the time in investing in an artist and building them up from the ground up, like I mentioned earlier. They would much rather sign an artist who has already gained notoriety within the industry, albeit if that's still relatively small. If you can demonstrate that you have a knowledge of the music business, you have a knowledge of building a fan base, as well as a knowledge of how to make brilliant music, that is what record labels really seem to be attracted to in the artists they're signing in the modern digital era. And to get to a position where you will be seen as attractive to a label, you need to operate your career through the path of independence. And this is because this is the path that will teach you all of these things. The Musicians Union itself identified this trend back in 2012 when they did a report called the Working Musicians Report. They said, quote, "Musicians need to develop their skills in order to sustain their careers, beyond those associated with being a musician, such as business, marketing, teaching, and community engagement skills. Above all, musicians need to be adaptable." This means that if you want to be a successful musician, you need to begin breaking the mold of what it means to be a traditional musician. As we've seen, things are changing with the internet, with the digital age, and now with independence. And you need to redefine your career into that independence if you want to be successful. However, I'm sure some of you have tried your hand at this and found that there's so many roles to juggle within the music industry through being an independent musician, from, the press side of things, the marketing side of things, the advertising side of things, the recording side of things, and literally everything else that comes with an independent career. There's a lot to consider here. And the UK Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport actually talked about this, saying, quote, "Many music creators still find it hard to sustain a full-time career in music. This has resulted in a workforce where many juggle multiple roles within the industry." And their research found that more artists are self-releasing, self-managing and self-publishing their work, which can put a lot of pressure on these individuals when pursuing a career in music. But if you are feeling overwhelmed with your music career, juggling all these different roles, you are still allowed to find a team to help you with this. Now, for example, you would only want to bring on a team member if you were at the point where you were, one, financially capable to do so, and two, were at the point where you literally didn't have time to do this yourself. So, for example, a lot of artists get overwhelmed with social media and they might want to hire somebody to do that because they get overwhelmed with it, but that's not the position that you need to be hiring a social media manager. If you don't have time to do social media and you have the budget to hire somebody to do this, that's when you need to begin expanding your team into those different areas. And this is personalised for each different artist because artists' music careers are as diverse as the music themselves. So this doesn't apply to every single person, and you need to make that decision and judge when you need to bring on another team member yourself to your individual music career. But you get what I'm saying in that you need to have enough money to do so, and you need to be in the position where you literally can't do it yourself because you're so busy doing other things. And I think this has been a bit of a myth for a while with independent musicians, because a lot of people inherently think that because you're independent, you literally have to do everything yourself. And yes, that's the case for the beginning of your career, but like I say, as you start to gain that momentum and not have enough time to do other things because you're doing other things elsewhere, that's when you want to bring on a team. So I just want to break that stigma of independent artists having to do everything themselves, because it's not true, and independence means you are literally not signed to a label. It doesn't mean you can't find a team. And there are plenty of people out there that can help you with this. There's so many people who, like ourselves, are music career development places, and they can provide you with advice and guidance on the next best steps to go with your music career. But yeah, you need to be on the lookout for a team if you're in the position to do so. In conclusion, I think that independence has not only provided us an opportunity to rethink the way in which we operate our careers, but it's provided an opportunity to reform the music industry, because as more artists go independent, this causes more shifts in the power from record labels to artists, like I was talking about in the negotiating power of record labels with their contracts and deals. And I think we're going to see a really big surgence of this independence in the next couple of years, because one, artists have kind of been forced into this by COVID, but two, artists are realising that they can actually do a career in music themselves, and that getting signed isn't the only path to a successful career in music. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope it helped you in understanding this discussion around independence. In one of our next videos we'll go over the pros and cons from being signed to being independent, and like I say, I don't think either or are better, but they are very distinct, very different, and you guys need to be informed on what the differences are between these two career paths. If you did enjoy today's video, it would mean the world to us if you could leave a like and possibly subscribe, because we've got lots and lots and lots of music business knowledge we'd like to share with you guys, and I don't want you missing out. So you could also hit the notification bell when you do subscribe to get a notification when any new video of ours goes live. You can check us out and follow us on social media in the links down below, and if you want, you can leave a comment telling us what you think about this rise in independence. What do you feel it is for the music industry? How do you feel it's going to shape our future? We want to know what you guys think, so let us know in the comments down below. But that's all from me today, folks. I'll see you in the next one.